invitation, and I feel honored to be able to present to you. My name is Xiaojing Ko. I come from Indiana University, and my topic today is how can ChatGPT be used in language teaching and learning. So in fact, this is the subject that I provided to my friend several months ago when I didn't have a very clear idea of what exactly I'm going to present. And looking at the topic right now, I'm thinking, oh, this is way too bland, not interesting at all. It needs some massage in the topic. It needs to have some intrigue and engagement in it. So I asked ChatGPT to provide me 10 alternative topics, and the one below it is one of the alternatives that provides, and I agree with it. So that would be the other topic of today's presentation, which is empowering language learners and educators with ChatGPT. Okay. So before everything, I wouldn't go into the details of explaining what is ChatGPT. I would need to do this months ago, but I believe if any of you have learned about ChatGPT, you already know a lot about ChatGPT. My speech today will only focus on its implementation for language teaching and learning. But I still feel there is a need to explain the very basics of it, because understanding these basics allows us to correctly understand some of the behavior of this tool. Like, for example, why each time it gives me a different answer, why the answers are not stable. So basically, GPT stands for Generative Pre-trained Transformer. What it does is, and if you are interested in how it's trained, you can go to this article introducing ChatGPT at openai.com. It provides a very detailed explanation of the 3 steps of training it. And in simple words, the AI experts, they engage the large language model in deep learning. So they kind of build in artificial neural networks, kind of compared to the biological neural networks in our brain, on large computers and train them on a huge amount of data, and basically to guess on the next word from the bunch of previous words in the text. It's just predicting what's the text to come next, to follow next. And so a good example of that is when you're using your cell phone and when you're texting, and many times it's going to predicting what are the most frequently used words after the word you are typing. So that's kind of how AI is working. And another example is the magnetic poetry. I don't know if you've done that day before, so you're given a bunch of words, and we using our biological neural network and judge the meaning of the words, and then based on our own data kind of create a coherent piece of text. So that is what GPT does. Okay, so the foundation of this speech, starting early February, I started to collaborate with my colleagues, and we have done a series of research, and these are the first 2 research are, sorry, I still hear echoes. It's okay, but if you can fix that, that would be better. So the first 2, okay, yeah, much better. Thank you very much. So the first 2 research are already published, and they're focused on an analysis of 140 video from YouTube channels on the topic of language teaching with ChatGPT, language teaching and learning with ChatGPT. The second, the last 2 research where we add interview data. We start to interview the YouTubers, and we focus on understanding their perception of how this tool can aid self-directed language learning. So first two focus on the affordance of the tool, and the second two focused on self-directed learning. And then based on this learning, I myself, as a professional trainer for language educators, I started a systematic testing of this tool around the important aspects of language teaching and learning. So today I'm going to cover these 4 aspects of language learning and reading and teaching, which is reading. And reading is the most important aspect of it, where ChatGPT can be very strong in helping both the learners and the teachers. And then I'm also going to talk about writing and conversation, including speaking, listening and speaking. Okay. So, and before we get into the depths of language learning, I also want to mention the multilingual feature of ChatGPT. So by being multilingual, it means that in one prompt, the structure of ChatGPT is basically you ask a question, which is a prompt, and then you get an answer. So in one prompt, you are able to include multiple languages, and most of the case, you don't need to tell ChatGPT what language you are speaking. It's going to identify it automatically, and it can respond to you also with multiple languages as you need. So, traditionally the AI, most of the cases, you need to specify what language you are using, and then you can start to communicate with the tool in that specific language. But ChatGPT is multilingual, which is the great news for language learners. But however, we need to know that it's not competent in all languages. So a group of researchers, they categorized these languages based on the data ratios in the common hoppers, and based on them, the high resources languages are, for example, English, Russian, German, Chinese, Japanese, and actually Turkish is kind of on the top of the medium resource category, and there are also these languages that are low and extremely low resources, which means that if you try to communicate with ChatGPT in these languages, most likely it wouldn't work as well as the medium language resource, or especially the high resource. So for example, for Turkish, I believe, because I don't speak Turkish, but I believe based on what I've heard from my colleagues, you can communicate with Turkish for a lot of the tools, a lot of the tasks, but especially when you are dealing with, I would say, literary junctures, it may not be as good as English. Okay, so now let's talking about reading. So how we can empower learning of reading. The most important feature, the most useful feature of ChatGPT, as I tested and learned from the other YouTubers, is to explain words in context. And here's an example of it. This text is from a recipe that I read. So this is my real life experience. I was reading this recipe, and I see the sentence. It says, add shallot is kind of onion, add shallot and spice blend, season with salt and pepper to the pan of reserved fond. Okay, as a lifelong language learner of English, fond is still a new word to me. I was like, what is really fun? So, if we follow the traditional way of learning a language, you're going to check the dictionary, and dictionary.com is one tool I use often. But of all the meanings they give me, and I know for sure this would be a noun, but it doesn't look like it makes any sense in this context. So I give ChatGPT a try, and it got it in the first attempt. And here is what ChatGPT says. It says, in culinary terminology, fond refers to the browned bits and flavorful juices that are left in the bottom of the pan after salting, searing, and roasting meat and vegetables. Okay, so in your sentence, the pan of reserve fond means the pan that has these brown bits and juices from the previous cooking. Okay. And this is the prompt that I use. Basically, I copy and paste the sentence here and ask what's the meaning of the font and the Turkish translation. So I tried with Chinese translation, and many of the times provide a good translation. I don't know for Turkish, and you can judge that yourself. Here is the Turkish translation. Okay. So another useful tool, another useful, a great use of ChatGPT is to help either language learners who engage in self-study when they read a long piece of text. For example, as a language learner, you read this article from Wikipedia. Or if you are a language instructor, you would like to provide this piece of text as enrichment text. But there are some new words there for the language learners. And then as an instructor, you would like to provide them with additional support, like, vocabulary list. So, in the past, you would use your dictionary, right? And check each of them and copy and paste them in your notebook. And here is the prompt that I gave ChatGPT. Please explain the meaning of these words. And by the way, the 5 words that I selected are precursor, prolific, handle, untrustworthy, and speculate. Because I'm going to use this text, for the rest of the speech. So I'm going to read the first 2 paragraphs. You kind of have the context. So the text says, in early 2021, a Wikipedia editor peered into the future and saw what looked like a funnel cloud on the horizon, the rise of GPT-3, a precursor to the new chatbots from OpenAI. When this editor, a prolific Wikipedian who goes by the handle Barkeep49 on the site, gave the new technology a try, he could see that it was untrustworthy. Okay, so that's the major part of the text we're going to use for these prompts. So I'm especially interested in how ChatGPT explained the word handle. Handle is a very easy word for most of the English learners, right? But if you read the context, you would know that this handle here doesn't mean the handle we usually mean, and the meaning you can usually find in the dictionary. So it's by the handle of beekeeper. So what does that mean? Okay, so here's my prompt. Please explain the meaning of these words, at least these words here, as they are used in the following text. And I copy the text below the request, and then I say, make a table with these words like this. English word, its English explanation, its Turkish translation, as used in the above text, the sentence with the term in this text, and 2 additional example sentences in English. Okay, so let's see what ChatGPT produced. And I actually had a screen recording, and here it looks. Let me see. Isn't that amazing? Okay, so on this slide I'm going to show you, and here is the details of what ChatGPT created. So it provides you a table. The first column is the word that you picked, and the second column is the English explanation. We can check some of them. Let's especially check handle. It says handle is a username or pseudonym used to identify oneself on the internet or in the community. Isn't that cool? And then here is the Turkish alternative, and you can judge how correct it is. And here is the original text, a sentence in the original text. And here is the additional example. So I think ChatGPT did an excellent job. The only thing that it didn't get is I asked for 2 examples, it gave me 1. And actually I tried this prompt multiple times, and each time it'll only give me 1 example, so which is interesting. Okay, and you can do more on this. And remember, the reason we call it ChatGPT is that you are engaging in a chat. It's a threaded chat. It's not question, answer. Question, answer. You can continue. So based on this, you can continue your discussion. So I further asked the question. And that's my prompt. I say update the above table by number 1, adding IPA for the Turkish word. So I want to know how to pronounce the word, right? And number 2, adding a new column with the Spanish alternative of the English word, if, I'm also learning Spanish in the same way. And here is what ChatGPT generated in, seconds. Here you see that in addition to the Turkish alternative, it also adds the AP and the IPA. And for me, then let me know if I read it right. I would say that Anju, and this one would be Bellini. So hopefully I get close to the pronunciation, and then and this is the Spanish alternative. So think about how this would help you both as a language learner and as a language educator. Another part of reading is you do also need to understand grammar. When you read a piece of text, you want to understand the grammar involved in the text. And the first one is you can use it to a prompt like this, please explain the sentence with parts of speech. And this is useful when you're a beginner learner, very beginner, and you have a very short sentence, but you don't understand the parts of speech. And then by using this, it's going to give you a word-by-word explanation. And then for a complex sentence, you can use a prompt such as, please explain the grammar of the sentence. And even you can ask ChatGPT to give you a diagram. And then for a discourse that has is a coherent text, you can try the prompt, please explain the structure of this text based on a rhetorical structure theory. Okay, so I'll give you some example. So this is example when I asked ChatGPT to explain, the grammar of the sentence. When this editor, a prolific Wikipedia who goes by the handle beekeeper on the site, give the new technology a try, he could see that it was untrustworthy. And here is what ChatGPT explains, its grammar structure. It identified the independent clause, which is he could see that it was untrustworthy, and also the dependent clause, this part, and then ChatGPT also kind of further break down the sentence and give further explanations. So this is really helpful for a language learner. And then here is actually a diagram that ChatGPT generates based on that structure. I have to say it's interesting, but it's still confusing. So there's still a lot of work ChatGPT needs to do to improve the diagram of sentence structure. And then another way to improve your empower learning of reading is intensive reading. So this is another way I can help a learner to read a long piece of text. So I use the same piece of text and I give the prompt, display the following text sentence by sentence. Follow this step. Number 1, display the English sentence. Number 2, just provide the Turkish translation of the sentence. Number 3, provide the explanation of the most important 3 words in English. You don't even need to specify what they are. And then provide an example sentence for each word. So you can see that then the ChatGPT breaks each sentence, and for each sentence it lists the sentence, it provides the translation, and it identified 3 important words, which is pretty good: period, precursor, and funnel, cloud, and then give the example of it. So that's very helpful for intensive reading. And another way to help you reading is to, if a piece of text, like the same text, if it's too simple or too complex, you can also ask ChatGPT to further simplify it. So this is the simplified version, or make it more advanced. I tried with the more advanced one. It's not necessarily a better writing, but it does provide you interesting vocabularies to learn. Another important part of supporting reading is to understand nuances of words. For example, you can ask the question, can you explain the differences between the words worthwhile and worthy? And here, I'm not going to give you and read out the answer, but they give a very clear distinction of these 2 words, and it gives also examples. So what I asked further is, Can you create a 5 fill-in blank question for these 2 words and provide the correct answer? And here are the 5 questions, and read them. They're not nonsense questions. They're pretty good questions, and here are the answers. And I'm going to provide with the organizer this PowerPoint, so you can test these on your own, and you can read these responses in details later. And okay, so now we move to conversation. For conversation, I would suggest one thing is to prepare your students with conversation tasks. So for example, you can think about the scenarios. For example, interview, supermarket, bank, job interview, and then use these prompts to help prepare your students. For example, can you give me some example questions and answers for airport customs in English or Turkish? And then you're going to see a dialogue. Or it's between at the airport customs. Or you can ask, you say, I'm going to have a job interview for a marketing position. The interview will be conducted in, say, English. Can you provide me with 10 keywords, 5 key phrases, and 5 key sentences? They're going to provide you with very relevant, useful sentence and language elements that will be useful to prepare the students to engage in real conversation in these scenarios. And then this one that we can also talk about what kind of task that you can engage with a conversation task you can engage with ChatGPT. So I have to mention that prompt engineering is very critical if you want to use ChatGPT as a language partner. Remember that a language partner is usually a human being, but AI is not a human being. So you really have to massage that prompt to make ChatGPT think that he's not, or he or she is not an AI. So here's in the prompt that I've been successful with. I said, I'm a language learner, and I want you to act as a language partner and chat with me in English about tea. Please keep your response within sentences, 3 sentences. And this is also important because ChatGPT can be very wordy, and this is not useful for beginner learner, right? And don't use complex words and grammar. Since you are a language partner, here is what I'm giving ChatGPT the idea who he is, right? You can imagine yourself a human being, not an AI. I even give it a name. You know, your name is Matt. Can you start with the conversation? It doesn't really use the name, but the conversation goes very well, especially here. So I asked ChatGPT so ChatGPT starts, of course, I'm here to help. I can chat about tea. What's your favorite tea? Do you think it's sugar or milk? And I respond in English with some grammar mistakes there. I said, I like white tea, no with sugar, sometimes with milk. And then, and then ChatGPT asked me another question, and I refused to answer it. But I said, how about you? Oh, it asked me, what kind of tea do you like? And I say, how about you? So this is the test of my prompt engineering. And if AI would answer, no, I don't like any tea because I'm a machine. But here is ChatGPT's answer. I'm not a big tea drinker, but I've heard that tea can be quite relaxing. So now the prompt really works. Okay. And then after everything, you can follow up with the prompt says, please review our conversation above and correct my errors if any. Okay, I want to add, I think my time is almost up. I want to add a quick strategy is really helpful, and because you want to do multiple things when you are engaged in a conversation. For example, you also want ChatGPT to translate what it says into your native language when your language level is not that high, but then it's going to disrupt the conversation, because then ChatGPT would understand this as a request to translate instead of you are engaged in a conversation. So the best strategy is to open up another thread and use that thread only for translation. And this is the prompt I use, and it's always helpful. It says, from now on, translate language 1 sentence into language 2 and language 2 into language 1. So whenever, during my conversation, if there's any sentences that ChatGPT produces, I don't know the meaning, what I can do is copy and paste it in the second thread, and I even don't need to ask it to translate because I already prompted that at the very beginning, and it's a thread of discussion if you remember. Okay, so that's conversation test. And now good news, it just happened recently that for ChatGPT Plus, and if you have an iOS app not on the web interface yet, you can actually engage with the audio. You can talk to ChatGPT and ChatGPT can talk to you back. It's in very natural voices, and there are several voices you can choose from. And after your discussion, it's going to provide you with the transcript. And of course, you can also chat in multiple languages. The only thing that I don't like yet is the speed. The speed control is not easily done, so it kind of speaks really fast now. I'll be quick about prompt engineering. The most important thing about the prompt that I did for the conversation is to give a role to ChatGPT in addition to the request and the context you're usually providing. And when your prompt is too complex, remember to do it step by step, and also try different languages. For writing support, a very important, I have to go quickly, sorry. Very important useful prompt for ChatGPT is to help you with collocation or to help you overcome your writing block. You know, you have the task to write a cover letter, provide ChatGPT with all the information you need. And start with your thinking process, like what I want to emphasize in my cover letter, and then tell all those to ChatGPT, and then have it to write the first draft, and then you don't even need to use that draft, but it gives you some idea, so you can continue with the writing on your own. I also have some strategy, like you can also ask ChatGPT to further rewrite your letter, kind of give it a tone of special and favorite author of you to give it some life in it, but be very careful about using a very creative language in cover letter. In useful writing tasks, I would say my most favorite writing task in Collaborate is a gamification task. So engage with ChatGPT, ask ChatGPT, let's write a story together. I write one sentence, you write one sentence, or I write one word, you write one word. Try that game. It's really, really fun. And at the end of your writing, you can ask ChatGPT to generate what you wrote into a paragraph or into a text. Okay, so ChatGPT can also be your smart teaching assistant. You can use it to generate ideas for tasks. For example, I'm teaching students past tense in Spanish. To help students grasp the concept, please suggest 5 interactive classroom activities and 5 online activities that students can work with. And you may not always be able to use all the ideas, but it's going to give you some inspiration. You can also use ChatGPT to generate rubrics. Rubrics is so boring to generate, right? So start with ChatGPT and then start from there. And then here is an example of a high school teacher used ChatGPT to generate a lesson plan, and then how she tweaked it. So if you follow that link, you're going to see that article. So my suggestion is that if you already have a lesson plan, you might want ChatGPT to generate a lesson plan, and then you can compare what ChatGPT has and what you have, and you may get some idea from ChatGPT. You can also generate some assessment. I would have to say that it's not really very good generating good assessment, but here's another tool which is called formative.com, which is kind of focused on AI-based assessment. Recently, the new ChatGPT, the ChatGPT Plus can also read images now, so you can ask ChatGPT to describe the image. And there's a lot of things you can do as an instructor, right? Look at that image, have ChatGPT describe it, have your students describe it, and compare the description. And here's the cautions: copyright issues. When you copy and paste, you might copy and paste copyrighted text into ChatGPT, and no one really understands implication of it, but I'm pretty sure lawyers are working on that. And also remember that grammatical explanations are not always correct, especially for languages non-English languages. And also some YouTubers was talking about the authenticity of the language. It's textbook language, it's not real language, and it's a vanilla flavor. So it's good for language learning, but it may not be a good material to learn to write. And of course, we talked about unstable answers and wrong information. And here are some of the alternative tools you can test. And here is, and I want to mention that ChatGPT can do a lot of the things. So our students don't really depend on us for many of the tasks they used to depend on us. So there's an increasing amount of learner autonomy. So what does this mean for educators? Think about flipped classroom. Think about support students in self-directed learning. Since they're already engaged in self-directed learning, encourage them for self-directed learning and emphasis on critical thinking. And also engage students in cognitively, but also emotionally, to support students emotionally. That's not AI can do. And also help form and facilitate a learning community among your students so they can also, enjoy the social aspect of learning. And I would encourage you to engage in research, especially the actual classroom implementation and how you integrate the ChatGPT with other language learning tools. And here's the references, and thank you very much. Sorry, I'm a little over the time limit.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ko, for your fruitful and very informative presentation. Now, we would like to turn to the audience, and as you can see in the camera, now you can see the audience. We will ask them if they have any questions, so that you can answer them. Any questions? ChatGPT or any other technological enhancement in language learning is always a good idea, always an enjoyable idea for teachers.
Yeah, or maybe comments, and I have tested that ChatGPT in multiple languages, but not Turkish. So your feedback on how well it does for Turkish language teaching and learning, that's also very helpful.
We have a volunteer.
Dear Professor, thank you for your presentation.